There is nothing like a slow roasted or a smoked pork shoulder, but today we are doing something a little bit different. We are slow roasting a blade of pork. The blade is a cut that comes from the shoulder area, but it's near the loin, and so it's not quite as it doesn't pull apart like the pork shoulder does, but it does have its own nice little bit of marbling, and it's just got really incredible flavor. So we're going to do a different treatment of this today. We are making a slow roasted pork shoulder blade with a sweet tangy sauce, and we're going to pair it with some beautiful corn, roasted corn, and some frizzled leeks. Hey everybody, it's Walter from Artistic Gourmet Adventures. My wife Kim and I own this unique small group tour company where we host groups of 6 to 12 guests for 1 week luxury adventures in beautiful locations throughout Europe and the United States. I have the privilege of being the adventure chef, creating and preparing daily gourmet meals for our guests. We also enjoy creating in-home private dinners for clients and friends when we're back in the States. Many of our guests request our recipes and want to learn cooking tips. So, in this video series from our cozy home kitchen here in the beautiful Loire Valley of France, we will demonstrate a wide variety of recipes, from culinary classics to originals, as well as covering professional kitchen techniques for the home chef. For more information on Artistic Gourmet Adventures, check our website, linked in the description below. Now, let's start cooking. Pork shoulder is something that we can just use for so many different things. You know, you can smoke it, you can grill it, you can barbecue it, you can slow cook it. You know, it can be used for, you can shred it up and use it for enchiladas. You can use it as a main course, cut it and use it for sandwiches. Today we are going to be slow cooking this, and this is a very small one. This is just a blade. This is a piece called a palate, and it's bone in. There's a nice bone right there, which of course you want to keep and use for those beans later on. So we'll talk about how we're going to season it, but first let's look at our piece of pork here. And this one is not as marbled as a lot of times you'll see with a pork shoulder. So it's got a nice fat cap on the top, and we're going to keep some of that. We'll take some of that off, but on the bottom here there's a little bit of silver skin. So let's take care of that, because that will not break down and it will not render the way fat will. So we're going to remove some of that. And that way our seasoning will be able to get through the whole thing. There we go. Remove it in pieces. And we don't want to cut too much into the meat part of this, so that should just about do it. And this piece sometimes can go all the way around and underneath the top portion. So we'll take that off. And so at this point, we kind of need to determine how much of this fat cap we want to remove. So I think what we'll do is we'll remove some of it because we are going to be slow cooking this. We're going to be slow cooking this in the oven. And this is something that if you feel comfortable doing this, you could certainly do this. You could put it in your oven overnight, and it's just a great aroma when you wake up in the morning and this pork has been cooking all night. There's just nothing like that smell. So we are doing this during the daytime, and so we're going to up our temperature a little bit and cook it for probably 3 or 4 hours. I normally would cook this at about 225 Fahrenheit. So very, very slow cooking. And but today we're going to do this at about 275. It's a smaller piece and it shouldn't take quite as long. So I'm thinking maybe 2.5, 3 hours, something like that. So we're going to do that. And so the goal with this is for it to have an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit, 63 degrees Celsius. So we are going to put it in the oven with our thermometer, and we're going to insert our meat thermometer with an alarm, and it'll let us know when it gets to that point. But let's talk about the seasonings, the spices for our pork. So because we are roasting this in the oven, we are going to use a nice bed of onions, chopped onions, and garlic. So we'll put those in our pan, and that'll be our resting bed. And you can do a couple different things. You can use whole ginger and just cut that up, about a thumb's worth of ginger, cut it up and put it in here along with your garlic and the onions. Or in my case today, I'm actually going to use a garlic and ginger paste. So we'll rub our pork with that. And we're also going to use a pepper sauce. So I always like to use a pepper puree if I'm going to be slow smoking or slow cooking a piece of beef or a piece of pork. And in this case, this is a harissa, puree of harissa peppers. But in the States, you can use the chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. You can find that in the can, and that's great. And if you get the can that has the whole chipotles in it, and a chipotle is really just a smoked jalapeno. But a lot of times they'll sell them in adobo sauce in a can, and you'll have the whole pepper in there. And you can just put that bad boy in a blender and whiz it up, and that's now your paste. So in this case, like I said, we're going to use this harissa, which is a fantastic flavor. It's a fantastic seasoning. It can be a little bit spicy, but it's not, if you don't overdo it, it's not really that spicy. So we are going to first rub this with our garlic and ginger paste. In fact, we're going to put that in our bowl here. So we'll do a nice little rub there and just get that everywhere. This is going to have kind of an Asian flair to it, and you'll see a little bit more of that when we make our sauce at the end. It already smells fantastic with that garlic and ginger. And now we'll just use some of our harissa. And again, we just kind of get it all over and get into the cracks and the crevices. And it's a thick cut of meat, so it takes some seasoning to get to it. All right, and now our spices. We've got salt, black pepper, smoked paprika, and you could use garlic powder if you wanted to, but I think we've got plenty of garlic since we've got the garlic in our onions, and we've got the garlic and ginger paste, and we've got a little bit of cumin in here. So this will be our rub. So as you can tell, we're going for something that's going to be packed with flavor. And it's going to cook nice and slow. And of course, you could always save the extra that you have of the seasoning mix, if you have any extra, and use that for shrimp, or you can use it for chicken, whatever you want. Just put it on there and let it marinate for a little bit, and put that on the barbecue, and you've got a great, great flavor. Let's add just a little bit of grapeseed oil to the bottom of our pan here. And we're just going to put our pork on top, just like that. I've got the bone side down, the fat side is up. So that should give us lots of nice lubrication in there. Let's get our hands washed. Anytime you're working with pork or chicken, you want to make sure that you wash your hands frequently before you touch anything else. So we've got our hands washed, and now let's transfer this to our oven. And I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, we've got our thermometer here. It's got a little alarm. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the thermometer, insert it into the center of the pork. I'm trying to keep it away from the bone because it tends to get pretty hot near the bone. So we'll do that. And we don't need to cover this extremely tightly, but we'll cover it with a little bit of aluminum foil just to get that roasting going. And now straight into our oven. And we're putting this on about the bottom third of the oven. Something like that. And that's all there is to it. Very simple. So we'll come back and check it in about 2.5 hours and see where we are, and hopefully our alarm will be going off within 2 or 3 hours. Okay, looks like we have liftoff and our pork is cooked and it's up to 63 degrees. So we're going to take it out. Ooh, yes, look at that. And that's hot. Perfect, just like that. Okay, so now we've taken our pork out and it is cooked. It's safe to eat, but you can tell as I move it around that it's not to the tenderness that we want. And again, this is not a pork shoulder, so it's not going to be one that we can actually pull. It'll be stringy like a pork shoulder, but it is going to get a little bit more tender. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put it back in the oven. As you can see, we don't have any crust or anything on top. We're going to crank the heat up to about 190 in the 190 centigrade, which is probably about 395 Fahrenheit, something like that. And we may need to even bring it up a little bit more because we want to form some crust on the outside and let it get a little bit more tender. So we're going to leave the foil off and put it back in the oven for a little bit. And in the meantime, you can see all the nice juices that are occurring in the bottom. That's going to be used to, that's going to be the base of our sauce. So we're going to put that back in there, and probably for another 30-35 minutes, we'll let that go. And if it doesn't get as crusty as we want, what we can do at the very last is we can actually lift that up onto the next rack closer to the top. We could even turn the broiler on if we want to just really make sure we get some nice crust going there. But that's what we're going to do, and we'll come back and check it in about 30-35 minutes. Okay, so our pork, we cooked it to 145 degrees Fahrenheit, 63 degrees centigrade. So the pork was actually done, but we wanted it to get a little bit more tender, and we wanted to get a little bit more color on it. So as you can see, we've got now some beautiful, beautiful color on it. And all of this stuff that's in the pan here is what we're going to use to make an incredible sauce. We have taken our pork out, and we're just going to put it in this other casserole dish, and we're just going to let it rest now, and we're going to make our sauce. So we're just going to set that aside while we make our sauce. So if we'd made our pork in a cast iron pan, this next step would have probably been easier, but we're going to go ahead and try this anyhow. We've made it in this, we cooked it in this, it's really a non-stick pan, but what we want to do is we want to get all of this goodness at the bottom of the pan. That is called sucs, S-U-C-S, and that is the from the Maillard reaction. When protein gets cooked inside of the pan like this, it just leaves all this great stuff at the bottom. So we're just going to heat that up a little bit, and we're just going to try to get it loosened. Well, it is loose, so we've got that all nice and loosened up. We're just going to stir it around a little bit. And we want to mix in, this is a very simple sauce. We're just going to add about a tablespoon of tomato paste, something like that. A little bit of Dijon mustard, probably another tablespoon of Dijon mustard. So we're making a nice tangy, it's going to be a nice tangy sauce. And you don't have to use Dijon, you could use any kind of a prepared mustard. We're going to go in with a little bit of apple cider vinegar and probably about a quarter of a cup of that. And we're going to add a little bit of brown sugar. We'll do that much for right now. Probably all we need. So basically what I want to do is just get everything off the bottom of this pan, and then we're gonna switch it to another saucepan and finish our sauce on the stove here. So now what we'll do is we'll just transfer all of this sauce or as I like to call it, all of our goodness. We're going to transfer all of that to our saucepan over our fire. Oh wow. The aroma is just unbelievable. Okay. So now we'll bring this up. We do want this to go ahead and come up to a boil, and then we're going to add some water to it to try to get the consistency that we want. Okay, so as you can see, we've got everything transferred now. So we've got in here, again, we've got a tablespoon of tomato paste, a tablespoon of prepared mustard, about a quarter cup of apple cider vinegar, and I've put about a tablespoon of brown sugar in here. And we'll season this at the very end if we feel like we need a little bit more salt and pepper. But now that this has kind of come up to the boil, we can add our water. And we want to bring that to the boil as well, because we are actually going to be straining this sauce at the very end. So we want to bring this up to the boil, and we'll let it reduce some. Now you could also use, red wine, you could use some port or what have you. But I think with all of the different strong flavors that we've got going here, we've got tomato paste, and I'm using the really good stuff. I'm using a really fine concentrated tomato puree, not just the canned tomato sauce. So we're going to let that come up to a boil and let it reduce a little bit and cook down, and then we'll strain it a little bit. And we've got set aside over here, we've got a little bit of cornstarch, and we'll use that for a thickener if we feel like we need it for our sauce to be a little bit thicker. So we'll let this go for a few minutes, let it come to the boil, and then reduce a little bit. Our sauce has come to the boil and it's reduced probably by about a third, and now it is time for us to, I'm going to put a little protection on here. Time for us to transfer it. I like to transfer my sauces to a little bit smaller pan once I strain them out, so we'll just go ahead and do that. Strain that into this pan here. And just like that. We'll keep our heat down. And again, you want to make sure you push all of that goodness through the sieve or the strainer. Oh boy, that is just some great tasting stuff. As much as I love onions, I'm almost tempted just to eat these onions and the garlic and the stuff that's in here, but I won't do it. I'll refrain. So this is our sauce, and as you can see, it's beautiful, very silky, but we want to thicken it up just a little bit. Let's taste it. It's just beautiful, it really is. It is that time for us to plate our pork and give it a taste. So we will put down a bed of our corn first. This beautiful charbroiled, sweet, roasted sweet corn with some green peppers, red peppers, yellow peppers, some jalapeno peppers, and then we'll add a little bit of our pork to that. And we've got some frizzled leeks that we'll put over the top, give us a little bit of a crunch. And now let's just finish everything with a drizzle of this beautiful sauce. Sweet and tangy. Slow roasted pork with a sweet tangy sauce sitting atop a roasted corn relish and frizzled leeks. All right, let's give it a taste. We've got our pork here. Oh, look at that, it's so tender. Really nice kick from the sauce. And then we've got the corn relish. It's got a little bit of a nice kick in that as well. And a little bit of crispiness from the frizzled leeks. This is a really well-balanced dish. And as you can tell, it's, you know, pretty simple to make. This would be a real winner on a Sunday for Sunday dinner. So, slow roasted pork with a sweet and tangy sauce. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, give us a thumbs up below and hit that subscribe button, it's free. And ring the bell if you want to be notified as soon as we release a new video. Also, let us know in the comments if you have any special recipe requests. We really appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.